Hi, welcome to my channel. Surprisingly beautiful day today here in the UK. We're having a last spurt of summer, I think, hence t-shirt. Gone from polo neck to t-shirt. Anyway, I want to talk today about how you do shift in reality and how you can shift instantly. I've talked in my last two videos about it all being about us. So us, I am reality. So what I see in the 3D is based on what is going on inside of me. It isn't the other way around, and you don't get to change anything on the outside of you. You can only change on the inside to see changes on the outside, but again, it isn't the outside. It's all part of the same thing. So look at it this way, that your 3D reality is a reflection of your current state of being. So that's your assumptions, your beliefs, your feelings about whatever's going on in your life at the moment. All of that is reflecting to you on the big screen, on the movie screen, which is what you see as 3D reality. So it can't do anything else than that. It can only, imagine you have the supercomputer inside of you and it's reading code. That's all it can do, is read code. It doesn't see good, it doesn't see bad, it doesn't see positive, it doesn't see negative, unless you tell it. I have found that I can say to my subconscious, I'm just going to call it subconscious for these purposes, if I have thoughts like this, which to me are negative, dissolve them back to zero. Our perception of everything is what builds this character that we live with day in, day out. Our perception of things going on in our life, what perception have we chosen to take on it? What perspective have we taken on something that's happened? So let's say you get triggered by something, which you cannot help being triggered, but what you can help is where you go from that trigger point. So do you go down that rabbit hole of what you think is happening here, what you are rationalizing, what you are deciding is the story of this particular subject matter, and then that is your internal 4D world, and then projecting into what you see as 3D. So what perspective have you taken? So look at something in your life that hasn't shifted. How do you feel mostly about it? What perspective have you taken on it? Have you come to a conclusion as to why it is the way it is? Because it isn't, that is just what you've decided, because somebody else might look at that and read it a different way. And you'll know when you talk to friends about things that you all have different opinions about certain situations. Not always, but often we do. But that's because somebody is perceiving it in a different way. So your perception is key. So the best way to deal with it is you could go and give yourself a wild perception, but you're not going to believe it and you're not going to feel it. So the gap between what is now and what you've just said and thought is so huge that there's a discrepancy there. It doesn't work. For most people. Some people can just take that and run with that wild story and be okay with it. But if you can't, then you want to look at something that is plausible, because there will be tons and tons of plausible reasons that this is happening. None of them are real. None of those reasons are real, because they're only based on you, what's going on inside of you. But you choose one that sits better with you than the one that you've chosen, that is basically helping form the energetic version of you, the internal version of you, which is showing to you on the outside, because it can't do anything but that. So a little tweak in perception and perspective is key to huge changes on the outside, really huge changes. And you wouldn't think that just a small shift in what you're perceiving would make a huge difference, but it really, really does. And that is your biggest reality shifting hero, really. Because that's all it is. You are where you are because of your perception, because of how you're seeing reality at the moment, because of how you are interpreting what is going on in your life at the moment. So I don't think we can ignore the 3D, but what we can do is say it will not dictate the rest of our life. I'm not going to let what I'm seeing in front of me now that I don't like dictate what's going to happen in the rest of my life. I don't accept that. This is what I want. This is not the version of reality I want that I'm seeing at the moment. I want this, but I'm not going to fight with what I can see at the moment, because if I do that, I'm fighting with my own creation. And how is that even possible to win that? Can't fight against myself. And the more you resist something, the more it persists. Now, we know that, don't we? We know that for a fact. We cannot resist. We have to accept. So we accept the current 3D for what it is. And we go, okay, it is what it is. And I understand why that is. But that's not going to be my future or even my present moment. In the present moment, I choose to look at things differently. If I'm stuck and I'm feeling stuck, if I can see that things are going in the wrong way, I'm going to choose to look at those things differently, because the way we look at things and the way we react to things and perceive things is our choice. It's always our choice, that part. Some crappy stuff happens in life and that was not our choice. But how we deal with it is always our choice, and that's the difficult thing sometimes. And the key is not to get mad at yourself when you feel you're not dealing with it in the way you should be, because eventually you will. I do believe that the key to being happier and calmer and more content is to actually, and I wouldn't have said this years ago because I didn't like the term really, love yourself, but to really respect yourself so much that you will put yourself first, and you'll put your feelings and your emotions and your mental state above anything else that is going on in your life at the moment that you don't like. You won't force against that in order to get what you want when your mental health is suffering. It's really about keeping yourself sane whilst believing in this, and the key to that is loving and accepting yourself exactly as you are in the moment. You're not perfect. None of us is perfect. There is a number of things that people would look at with me and think, oh, but I don't care. I don't care. I know those things about myself, and I accept those things about myself. And I think I've evolved hugely in the last 10 years, and I'm not the same person that I was. And so I totally accept this version of me, but I also forgive that version of me for any mistakes that she may have made that this me wouldn't make. But basically what you're doing when you're forgiving yourself for anything, it's really key to do that. If you've got anything going on inside of you that you really feel guilty about, or is to forgive yourself, because what you're doing is, if you don't forgive yourself, you are blaming this you that would never do those things for the things that previous you did that was learning. And those things you did, you were just learning to be this better version of you, this more evolved version of you. So if you hold forgiveness from yourself, you hold it away from yourself, you are punishing this brand new version of you that's really doing their best to be the best versions of themselves. So don't hold back on that. So if you go internal and look at those kind of things, because they'll really hold you back in life. If you have a lot of self-loathing going on, a lot of issues with yourself, and maybe that's just for accepting shitty behavior from someone and you're mad with yourself for that, that is going to get in your way in various ways in the future. So looking at that, looking at your self-concept as a whole, not do you think you're good enough, do you think you're worthy and all of that, that's all great and that's all necessary too, but really, do you actually like yourself? And if you don't like yourself, how can you learn to like yourself? Because then you will put yourself first, and you will find a greater acceptance of yourself and whatever's going on in the moment, knowing that you've done it, but you didn't do it on purpose. You don't be crazy mad at yourself. Look at what you can do to put that right. And it's always perception of what you think is, because what is you. So let's look at what is differently, and then what is will change. What is will be different because you're looking at it differently. A different perception will change it. And you'll think, oh, I've shifted in reality. And you imagine you're shifting into a new reality, but not really. Everything's just changing according to that thought. And that can be instant. And everything, I believe everything is instant anyway. I mean, we put the time on it. But some things you will notice. You will notice when you shift that perception, maybe little things seem a bit different, and then maybe something huge happens because of a little shift internally. But that's what it is. It's perception, because your perception makes up you. So if you have a crappy perception of something and your perspective on it is really out of line with what you want, then you have to look at that, because how can you get that thing when you've taken a certain perspective on it and decided that the circumstances around it are getting in the way? They're not. It's only your perception of the circumstances and of the thing, of the situation that is getting in your way. Nothing else is getting in your way but you. So you have to take that responsibility, which is really hard sometimes, I get that, but you have to try to do that. And once you accept that, then you start to see the possibilities, because if you're not putting it outside of you and it is all about you, then you do have the power to change those things, and you change them by changing the way you look at them. If you look at something differently, it is going to behave differently. Again, it's a law, it is. And that's been proved to me over and over and over in my life, especially over the last 5 years, where I've got much more of an understanding of that. It doesn't make sense at all. But if you believe, if you've had things happen in your life, shown up in your life that really realistically and rationally shouldn't have happened, that you've made happen with a thought or a feeling, then you also know that this is not a physical universe as we know physical, as we understand physical. It isn't. It can't be. It can't be both. It can't be a black and white solid existence and you can change it with your mind, can it? So try and think of it like that, whatever you think of it as. It isn't black and white, it isn't set, nothing is set, nothing in your life right now is set. It's all temporary, it's all fluid, right? Thank you so much for watching. If you don't know anything about me, I'm an author, manifestation coach and a mindset coach.